Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Mir Hashem today we will be learning Daf Tzadik Zayin Amid Beis. We pick up today on Tzadik Zayin Amid Aleph, 2 lines off the bottom of the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Shin Hey Sif Chaf Gimel. Of course, we are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. Our learning today should be a schus for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, Yitzchak ben Sion ben Dusha, Tzvi ben Le'amiram, Kavadas bas Rezel Serel, Devorah bas Shasha Bina, Rivka bas Shiraleah. They should have a Refuah Shalem and B'sar Shachel Yisrael. Our learning should also be a schus for Yonasan ben Michal, Yoel ben Michal. The Rebbeinu Shalom should watch over them together with all of our other brothers and sisters that find themselves in harm's way. B'chal Makayim Shehem. So we're coming to the end of Siman Shin Hey here. Siman Shin Hey, we've been discussing a lot of the halachas that pertain to the keeping of animals on Shabbos. The title of the Siman was Bameh Behema Yotzeis B'Shabbos. What are you allowed to permit your animal to go out wearing on Shabbos? What constitutes a masoi, a burden for the behema, so that you cannot allow the behema to go out to Rishus Harabim, because the behema would be performing the malacha of hoitzah, and you have a chiyuv of shvisas behemtai. What, on the other hand, is the animal allowed to go out wearing? And since we were discussing this, we came to discuss a lot of other halachas that pertain to the keeping of animals on Shabbos. And now we come to the final siman. Siman Chaf Gimel, says the Mechaber. Mutar limsar sus oy pered oy chamor l'roya enoi Yehudi. You're allowed to give over a horse or a mule. A pered is a mule, or a chamor, a donkey, l'roya enoi Yehudi, to a non-Jewish shepherd who's going to watch over the animal. So the point of these animals are, these are beasts of burden. These are animals that usually are used to perform labor. A horse, a mule, a donkey, you could give it over to a non-Jewish shepherd for the duration of Shabbos. And even if the Eini Yehudi will come to perform malacha with the animals on Shabbos, ein b'kach klum, not a concern of yours. Why? Because, says the Mechaber, you gave it over to a shepherd. Now, when you give the horse, the mule, the donkey to the shepherd, you're not giving it to him to perform work. It's a shepherd. You're giving it to him. He's basically a shomer. You're giving it to the shepherd for the shepherd to take care of the animal. The truth is that the shepherd has no permission to do work for the animal. So you certainly did not instruct him to do work with the animal, and on your end, there is zero expectation that he should do work with the animal. That's not what you gave it to him for. Kevin de Shalom Midas Yisrael Huoisa. And continues the Mechaber, Ve'enai mamtin l'schiris bimenu. You're not getting any pay from him. He's not paying you for the use of your animal, so he has no right to use your animal. So you didn't instruct him to do work with the animal. You have no expectation of him doing work with your animal. He has no right to do work with your animal. So therefore, you could give the animal to the shepherd, and you're not mechuyev to be concerned about this. However, says the Mechaber, v'im ro'eyu mishtamish ba b'Shabbos, but if you see that the shepherd is using your animal on Shabbos, moiche b'yadoi, then you must object. And the Chavetz Chaim is going to say, not only if you see, if you find out that he's working with your animal on Shabbos, then because of your chiyuv of shvisas behemtai, you're mechuyev to object and stop him. But to give it to the shepherd, that's not a problem. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah begins here on Tzadik Zayin on the base. Mishnah Berurah ois katan ein ches. So when the Mechaber explained why this is mutter, one of the things the Mechaber pointed out was einoi mamtin l'schiris mimenu. You're not waiting for or expecting to receive any pay from the roya. The shepherd's not paying you. If anything, you're going to pay the shepherd. But the shepherd's not paying you for the right to work your animal. Says the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah explains what the Mechaber is saying here. What the Mechaber wants to say over here is, this is why it's mutter lechatchila to give the behema to the roya Eina Yehudi on Shabbos. The haroya mirsas lehishtamish ba b'Shabbos, because the shepherd would be afraid to do work with your animal on Shabbos. Shelo yayonei shal zeh b'dineim, because the truth is the civil authorities would take issue with what he's doing. Legally, what right does he have to use your animal? He's a roya, he's a shepherd. His job is to take care of your animal and watch your animal. He has no authority, he has no right to be using your animal. So if he uses your animal, what he's doing is illegal. By any civil law, it's illegal. So he would be afraid to do it. Because you didn't give it to him for the purposes of him doing malacha with the animal at all. Aval, however, says the Mishnah Berurah, he points out something that we learned much earlier. I think it was Reish Mem Vav. Aval, lahaskir ulahashil le'ena Yehudi, but are you allowed to rent out your animal to an Eina Yehudi for Shabbos? Are you allowed to lend your animal for the purposes of performing malacha on Shabbos to an Eina Yehudi? Aval lahaskir ulahashil le'ena Yehudi, asur. That's, of course, forbidden. You're not allowed to rent out your ox to an Eina Yehudi for Shabbos so that he could go plow his field on Shabbos. That would be completely in contravention of your chiyuv of shvisas behemtoi. Afilu imasti imoisha tenuach b'Shabbos. Even if you'll make a condition with the Eina Yehudi and you'll tell the Eina Yehudi, yeah, I'm going to rent you my animal for 2 weeks, on the Tanai, on the condition that you're never going to do malacha with the animal on Shabbos. We said, Ukidala Besim Reish Mem Vav Sif Gimel, we said in Reish Mem Vav Sif Gimel that that's also. Because once you rent the animal to Tony, so that Tony could do work with the animal, he's not going to be afraid to use it even on Shabbos. So this means, if you rent your ox to Tony for 2 weeks and you make a condition up front with Tony that he's not allowed to do malacha with the animal on Shabbos, now it's true you made such a condition, and maybe you even signed a contract, and maybe that condition even has some legal force to it, still, Tony's not going to be afraid to do malacha with the animal on Shabbos. Because he's going to say to himself, Ba'ad Yom HaShabbos, all right, he gave me the animal and he told me not to do work with it on Shabbos. I'm working with it on Shabbos. But let's think about this. He knows I rented the animal to do work. So he knows I'm doing work with it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then I'm going to do more work with it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He doesn't want me to do work with it on Shabbos. And I guess I didn't really pay for the right to do work for it on Shabbos because that wasn't included. So you know what? I'll do work with it on Shabbos. And when it comes time to pay him, I'll pay him for an extra day's labor. And so too when Tony borrows the animal from you. He thinks to himself, you know what? Yeah, when I borrowed the animal, I told him I'm borrowing it to do work on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Sunday and Monday, and I'm not going to do work with it on Shabbos. Now I'm doing work with it on Shabbos. All right, so you know what? He thinks to himself, so you know what? I'll do the Yid a favor. I'm working his animal an extra day, so next week, when he needs to go pick up feed from the store, when I go to the store to pick up animal feed, I'll pick up. I'll do him a favor. I'll pick up his order for him as well. So I'm getting a little extra from him. I'll be mahana him a little bit extra. But in this case, but in this case, where you're giving the animal to a shepherd, so you never gave the animal to the Eina Yehudi for the purpose of malacha at all. Now the shepherd is going to be afraid to do labor with your animal, even if he'll reason to himself, Ruvain gave me the animal so I should be a roya and I should watch over it and take care of it. He never gave it to me to do work. Okay, my ox broke down. I need an ox to plow the field. I'll use Ruvain's ox to plow the field. And you know what? I'll pay him for it. He's not going to make that cheshbon. He is a shepherd. So again, the distinction that the Mishnah Berurah is making is like this. We learned in Reish Mem Vav If you have an ox and you want to rent out your ox to Tony so that Tony could do malacha with your ox, and you rented it out for 2 weeks, you have a problem because he could do work with it on Shabbos. And we said, even if you make it tonight, I'm renting it out to you, but I'm making it tonight that you will not do work with it on Shabbos, you can't trust him. Because once you give it to Tony for the purposes of doing malacha, he'll be Meireh Heter, and he'll do malacha with it on Shabbos. So that is usher. To rent out your animal, or to lend your animal to an Eina Yehudi for the purpose of doing malacha, and including Shabbos, that's usher, because you can't trust that he's not going to do malacha with your animal on Shabbos, and you have a chiyuv of shvisas behemtoi. But over here, the Mechaber is saying, to give it to a shepherd is mutter, because the shepherd is not going to be Meireh Heter to do work with the animal, because he never received the animal to do work at all. Therefore, he's going to be afraid to do it. It would be illegal for him to do it, and therefore you're not mechuyev to be concerned. Continues the Mishnah Berurah over here. Well, when the Mechaber says, if you see that the shepherd is doing malacha with your animal, you have to be moicha hu adin kishenoidaloi she'oisa by malacha tzarich limchis biyadai. It's not only if you actually walk by and you see that he's doing malacha with your animal. Even if you find out, so you come to shul and your friend tells you, you should know, by the way, Tony is using your shirt to plow his field. If you find out about it, you're mechuyev to stop him. Because again, the truth is, yes, you do have a chiyuv of shvisas behemtoi, and you're not allowed to give your animal to a guy and allow a guy to do work with it. The reason you're allowed to give it to the raya and you're not mechuyev to be concerned is because there's no room to be concerned that he's going to do malacha with your animal. He has no right to do malacha with your animal. So you don't have to be concerned that he's going to do it. But if you find out that he is doing it, then the mitzvah of shvisas behemtoi requires you to object and make him stop. Okay, let's go to the words of the Ramah. Second line down here on Tzadik Zayin Beis, the final entry in this Siman Shin Hey, says the Ramah Hagah. V'cholshkein certainly de'ein lachush sheharaya yoitzi oisam chutz l'tchum. Certainly, when you give your animal to a shepherd, you're not mechuyev to be concerned that the shepherd might take your animal out of its tchum. D'hatchumin d'Rabbanan. Tchum, we paskin, is only innocent d'Rabbanan, and says the Ramah, you're not mechuyev to be concerned that the roya, the shepherd, is going to take the animal out of its tchum. Now, the animal has a tchum Shabbos. So again, just very high level, you have an isser of tchumen. Wherever you are kaina shvisa on Shabbos, when Shabbos comes in, you acquire a place, right? You in the context of halacha, your place for Shabbos is set. Your place of residence is set when Shabbos comes in. So if you're in Borough Park when Shabbos comes in, Borough Park is your makom shvisa. Now, what do I mean Borough Park is your makom shvisa? Well, Borough Park is a town in a city, right? The halacha of tchum is you're allowed to go anywhere within the city, but out of the city limits, you only have 2,000 amas. Now, what constitutes the city limits? Chelik Daled. Mirz Hashem, we should get there in good health. Bezos Hashem Yisbarach, the Chelik Daled. We'll discuss the details of tchum. But you have the city limits, and you have 2,000 amas outside of the city limits. Now, your animal also has a tchum. All of your possessions have a tchum. Now, the tchum of your possessions is not set by where your possession was located when Shabbos comes in. The tchum of your possessions, the tchum of your animals, goes by where you were when Shabbos came in. So your animals and your possessions have the same tchum that you do. What the Ramah says over here is, you gave your animal to a roya eina Yehudi for Shabbos. Are you mechuyev to be concerned that the roya eina Yehudi might take your animal out of its tchum, meaning out of your tchum? Do you have to worry about that? Says the Ramah, no, you don't have to worry about it. And the Ramah closes out the Siman by saying that the reason you don't have to worry about this is because tchumin are d'Rabbanan. Okay? Not 100% sure what the point of that is. why that's the bar, the fact that it's D'Rabbanan, but let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says here. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut 9 test. V'chosh kedein lachash. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Va'afilu imhu roye ein tzarech limchos. Even if you see the shepherd taking your animal out of its tchum, you are not mechuyev to stop him. Why? The dafka lohitzia biyadayim aser. The isser of tchumen, when it comes to your animal, is the only isser of tchumen that there is on your animal is that you are not allowed to take your animal out of its tchum. Now, here we have to be a little bit careful, because remember what I just told you. Your animal's tchum is your tchum, right? What's it called? The postulate of I forgot what it's called. if A equals B and B equals C, A equals C. Of equality, postulate of identity, postulate of equality. I forgot what it's called. But your tchum and your animal's tchum are identical. So very clearly, you can't lead your animal out of its tchum. Because if you lead your animal out of its tchum, that means that you're going out of your tchum. So there's no chiddush in the fact that you cannot lead your animal out of its tchum. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the Sharit Tzion, Ois Katan Ayin Gimel, this goes back on a Mishnah Berurah that we learned yesterday. If you take a look over here on Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis, in my print, it's 2 lines off the top of the Mishnah Berurah. It's the last phrase in Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Ayin Zayin, the last Mishnah Berurah before Sif Chav Gimel. The Mishnah Berurah says, "Varak lo yitzia biyadayim chutz l'tchuma aser." The only isser of tchum when it comes to an animal is to take the animal out of its tchum. If you see your animal walking out of the tchum, you're not mechuyev to stop it. You're allowed to allow your animal to travel out of its tchum. You can't lead it out of the tchum. Now, on that Mishnah Berurah, if you take a look at Shar Tzion, Ois Katan Gimel, the Chavetz Chaim makes the point, Afilu im legabe hamoitzi lo yoyezeh chutz l'tchum. The isser to lead an animal out of the tchum is even if you are not going out of your tchum. How's that possible? Very simple. Ruvain owns an ox. Ruvain's ox's tchum is determined by Ruvain's tchum. Ruvain cannot take his ox out of the tchum because that would mean that Ruvain's going out of the tchum. But now there's Shimon. Shimon has a different tchum. Shimon was kind of shvisa in a different location. So Shimon's tchum is not the same as Ruvain's ox's tchum. So maybe Shimon is allowed to walk further than Ruvain's ox is. Is Shimon allowed to take Ruvain's ox out of its tchum? No. That's the isser of leading a behema biyadayim out of its tchum. Even though it's not your tchum, you're allowed to go there. You were kind of shvisa in a different place than Ruvain's ox was, so you're allowed to go there. But if Ruvain's ox is not allowed to go there, you're not allowed to lead it out of the tchum. So when it comes to the isser of tchum on a behema, for the behema to go out of the tchum, you're not mechuyev to stop it. If you give it over to a shepherd, and the shepherd, a non-Jewish shepherd, and the non-Jewish shepherd wants to take it out of the tchum, not mechuyev to stop him. But you're not allowed to lead a behema out of the tchum. So now, against that backdrop, again, let's see the Mishnah Berurah's cut 9 test. The Ramah said, "V'chosh kein dein lachush." You don't have to be concerned when you give the animal to a roya ein Yehudi that he might take the animal out of the tchum. Why? Va'afilu him roya. Even if you see that the shepherd is taking the animal out of the tchum, ein tzarech limchos. You don't have to stop him. The dafka lo yitzia biyadayim aser v'chanal. Because the only isser of tchumen on an animal is that you are not allowed biyadayim to lead an animal out of the tchum. Now, one of the reasons for this kula, if you look in the Achronim, seems to be that the isser of tchumen, the isser of going out of the tchum, is not really an isser melacha, right? We have lamites melachas on Shabbos. So chorish, plowing, is an isser melacha. You're not allowed to plow your field on Shabbos. That's an Isser Malacha. It's a labor, a Malacha that is prohibited on Shabbos. Okay? Not only are you not allowed to go plow your field, you are not allowed to allow your animal to plow, because you have a chiyuv of shvisas behemtoi that you have to stop your animal from performing meleches iser on Shabbos. But tchum is not an iser malacha. It's not one of the lamites malachas that you're not allowed to go out of the tchum. It's not really a malacha. Walking is the animal walking a malacha, right? If the animal was wearing an Apple Watch and the watch is tracking how many steps the cow takes on Shabbos, if the cow wants to do laps inside your stable, it could walk as much as it wants. You're not going to have to stop him. And it could walk, so if the animal takes 200 steps inside the stable, that's fine. If he takes 200 steps outside of the tchum, he's not doing any more malacha than he was doing before. It's not really an Isser malacha. It's a bazundera Isser. It's an Isser D'Rabbanan that the Chachamim found an asmachta in the pasuk. They based it on something that they saw in the pasuk, and they have an Isser D'Rabbanan that you're not allowed to go 2,000 amos outside of the city limits. But it's not an Isser malacha. And therefore, it doesn't really fall under the rubric of shvisas behemtoi, that you have to stop your animal from going out of the tchum. No, your animal going out of the tchum doesn't equal your animal doing malacha. So Achronim say that's one of the reasons why your animal wants to go out of the tchum, you're not mechuyev to stop him. The shepherd is taking the animal out of the tchum, even if you watch it happening, you're not mechuyev to stop him. But you are not allowed, or somebody else is not allowed to lead an animal out of the tchum. Why is that, Aser? If it's not a malacha, that's a little bit more complicated, but beyond the scope of what we're going to do over here. But continues the Mishnah Berurah here, Ois Katan Ayin Tes. V'chol zeh kisha'ena Yehudi moitzia me'atzmai. However, this heter that the Roya Eina Yehudi could take the animal out of the tchum, you're not mechuyev to be concerned if he does it. Even if you see it, you're not mechuyev to stop him. That's only if he's doing it of his own volition. If the Roya decided that he wants to take the animals under his care to graze outside of the tchum, and from his own volition, he wants to take your animal out of the tchum, fine. You're not mechuyev to stop him. But to instruct the Eina Yehudi on Shabbos, you bump into the Roya Eina Yehudi on Shabbos afternoon, you come going from shul, you walk by the Roya Eina Yehudi, and you tell him, oh, I just heard that there's some very good pasture outside of the tchum. Why don't you take my animal and let it graze outside of the tchum? That, ayin b'pri begadim shebestapik bazeh. Take a look at the Pri Begadim. The Pri Begadim questions whether or not this is mutter. The nochain lahachmir, and it would be proper to be stringent and to be machmir not to do it. Now, the reason for this is very simple to understand. The klal that we have in Amira La'akum is that anything that it is usher for you to do, you are not allowed to instruct an Eina Yehudi to do. Now, we just finished saying that you are not allowed to take the animal and lead it outside of the tchum. So since you're not allowed to take it and lead it out of the tchum, you're not allowed to instruct the Eina Yehudi to take it and lead it out of the tchum. The Chei Kasav Chayadam, and the Chayadam Taka writes that this would be usher. And we tamzeh, for this reason, says the Mishnah Berurah, Im Meilichin Shvarim Lamakam Acher Limkar. Let's say you have cowboys, right? What do cowboys do? Cowboys transport the animals to the marketplace. They take them places where they could sell them. So if you gave over your animal to the cowboys, you're a rancher, you gave 20 cows to the cowboys to go transport your cows. Umitamzeh, in Malichid Shvarim Lamakamacher Limkar, if the cowboys take the animals outside of the tchum, also limsar lehem b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to give over the animals to the cowboys on Shabbos. Right? So on Shabbos afternoon, you can't tell the cowboys, yeah, go ahead, take my animals and take them to the marketplace. You know that they're going to take them out of the tchum. You're not allowed to do that. And this is true even if there's no Amira La'akum problem here. In other words, there's always an Amir La'akim issue. You're not allowed to hire workers to do work for you on Shabbos. You can't, right? You can't have people doing work for you on Shabbos unless you fulfill all of the conditions that we learned earlier when we learned that Amir La'akim. One of them is Ktsitza. If you're Kaitzitz, if you hire him not as an employee, but you're paying them by the job, and they could do it on their own time. So you hired the cowboys. Look, you transport my animals to the marketplace. Whenever you do it whenever you want to do it, and I'll pay you kach v'kach. So even if you have no Amir La'akum issue over here, strictly speaking, but you can't give the animals to them. You can't let them take the animals on Shabbos, knowing that they're going to take them out of the tchum, because that creates an Amir La'akum problem that you're telling them now to take the animal out of the tchum. Erev Shabbos, but to give the animals to the cowboy on Erev Shabbos, even if you know that not only are they going to take the animals out of the tchum, they're even going to take the animals further than 12 mil. 12 mil, according to many Rishonim, is an Issa Daraisa of Truman. But on Erev Shabbos, there's no Issa of Amir La'akum. So to give it to them on Erev Shabbos, that would be okay. Ice cut and pay, Shaharayim Yoitzi, Haray Yoitzi. You know, to be concerned that the shepherd is going to take the animal out of the tchum. V'yesh machmir b'davar shalei limsa loy b'Shabbos, but there are those that are machmir not to give over the animal to the raya on Shabbos. For olam nohagid kayom heter b'davar, but the velt is noig lahakel, and they're noig that you could give it over to the shepherd on Shabbos. Okay, that closes out Siman Shin Hey. Now we begin another fascinating Siman, Siman Shin Vav. What types of your needs and your affairs are you allowed to discuss and be involved in on Shabbos? Ubay Yudalit Seifim, and here we're going to have 14 Seifim. So let's have a little bit of a hakdama over here to this sif. So we know this is something that we discussed already earlier on, all the way back in the beginning of Chelik Gimel, when we were discussing Kavod Shabbos and Einig Shabbos. We have a pasuk in Yeshaya, beautiful pasuk. The pasuk in Yeshaya says as follows: Im tashiv mi Shabbos raglecha. If you will hold back your feet because of Shabbos, im tashiv mi Shabbos raglecha. If you will hold back your feet because of Shabbos, asois cheftzecha, you'll refrain from pursuing your own pursuits and your own needs. B'yom kachi, on my Yom Kadosh, on the Rebbeinu Shalom's Yom Kadosh, Shabbos. V'karasa la Shabbos einig. And instead what you will do is, you will declare Shabbos to be an einig. You'll declare Shabbos to be a delight. Likdosh Hashem mechubed. To the day that's Kadosh to Hashem, you will declare it to be mechubed. You'll declare it to be honored. V'chibadetoi, and you will honor it, me'asois derachecha, from going in your usual ways, from doing the things that you do during the week, and doing things on Shabbos the way you do them during the week. Mimtzoi cheftzecha, from pursuing your own pursuits. V'daber davar, or discussing your own needs. If you'll do that, then you'll get a gewaltige reward. You'll get a gewaltige schar. Oz, if you'll do that, tisana gal Hashem. You'll be zoiche to rejoice with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Vehekarfticha al bama se'aretz. And the Rebbeinu Shalom will put you up on the heights of the world. Vehechalticha nachlas Yaakov avicha. And the Rebbeinu Shalom will give you the inheritance of Yaakov Avinu. Ki pi Hashem diber. So has Hashem spoken. So we have a beautiful pasuk in Yeshaya here about the need of being mechabed Shabbos, of Einig Shabbos, of how we're supposed to deal with Shabbos, how we're supposed to comport ourselves on Shabbos, and the gewaltige schar that one gets for the proper Kavod Shabbos. Now, we have seen already from the beginning of Chelik Gimel till now that we make several different drushes from this pasuk. So let's break down the pasuk a little bit. We have over here, Im tashu mishabes raglecha asois chefzecha b'yom kachi. Right? If you'll refrain yourself from doing your normal things on Shabbos. That's like a klal, a general rule. If you'll do that. Now the pasuk spells it out. What does that mean? What exactly will you do? So the first thing that we had over here was v'karasa la Shabbos oinig. You'll declare Shabbos to be a delight. Okay, what does that mean? What does it mean to declare Shabbos to be a delight? So we learned in the beginning of Chel Gimel. Those are all of the chiyuvim of oinig Shabbos. To make a proper Sudas Shabbos, take a nap on Shabbos, oinig Shabbos. That's v'karasa la Shabbos oinig. Then likdosh Hashem mechubed. You'll declare Shabbos, the Yom Kadosh of Hashem, you'll declare it to be mechubed, to be honored. What does that mean? That's covered Shabbos. You have to prepare properly for Shabbos. You have to be mechabed Shabbos in all of your hanhagos, the way you act on Shabbos. V'chibadetoi, again, this lashon of kibud. V'chibadetoi, you will, it's the word I'm looking for, the opposite of passive, active. You will actively be mechabed Shabbos. What does that mean? You'll wear begadim no'im and ksus nikia. You'll put on a beautiful Shabbos suit. You'll make sure you're wearing a nice clean shirt on Shabbos. Me'asois derachecha. And you won't go in the normal way that you normally do. This is also a halacha that we learned already. You're not allowed to run on Shabbos. You have to walk nice and calm in a dignified manner on Shabbos. Hiluchai b'Shabbos lo yeheki hiluchai b'chol. You're not supposed to walk in the street on Shabbos the same way you walk in the street during the week. So these are all chiyuvim that was spoken about, how you're supposed to act on Shabbos. V'karasal Shabbos einik, l'kdosh Hashem mechubed, v'chibadetai, me'asois drachecha. And now we come to the next entry in the pasuk, which was mimtzoi cheftzecha. You're not going to pursue your own pursuits. You're not going to take care of your agenda. You're not going to take care of the things that you're busy with on Shabbos. Mimtzoi cheftzecha. Oh, says the Mechaber, Sef Aleph. Mimtzoi cheftzecha. The pasuk in Yeshaya gives us a chiyuv, an iser, that you're not allowed to do things mimtzoi cheftzecha. You're not allowed to pursue your own pursuits on Shabbos. Says the Mechaber, chafotzecha asurim. Pursuing your own pursuits is also on Shabbos. Afilu b'davar she'ena oisa shum malacha. Even if you're not doing any meleches iser. So there are times that you want to do something and there is no meleches iser involved. But you're still not allowed to do it on Shabbos because of the iser of mimtzoi cheftzecha. Kigoyin, for example, says the Mechaber, shema'ayin nechasav, you want to look into your properties. Lirois, to look, matzarech lamachar. What do I have to do tomorrow? So you have a rental property, and it's vacant, and you need to rent it out. And you hired workers that on Sunday, the workers are coming, and they're going to start, cleaning up the apartment for their next tenant. So they're going to paint, and they're going to clean, and they're going to fix. They're going to have the punch list. They're going to go fix the things that are broken. Now, they want to start Sunday, 7 o'clock in the morning. So you have to be well prepared, right? So you say to yourself, Shabbos afternoon, you know what? The rental property is down the block. There's no shiloh of tchum. I have the keys. There's an Erev. Okay, what's the problem? I'll take the keys. I'll walk over to the apartment. No meleches iser involved over here. I'll unlock the door. I'll go into the apartment. No meleches iser involved over here. And I'll take a tour through the apartment. And the living room needs to be painted. I think we'll update it. We'll paint it a nice contemporary gray. That window needs a screen. I'll go into the kitchen. The kitchen faucet is leaking a little bit. Maybe it needs a washer. Am I doing any meleches iser? No meleches iser over here. This is aser because of mimtzoi cheftzecha. What you're doing is you're pursuing your weekday pursuits. And you're planning for things that do involve meleches iser. Painting is meleches iser. Not allowed to paint on Shabbos. Doing the plumbing work in the kitchen is meleches iser. Not allowed to do plumbing work on Shabbos. So you're going to the apartment and you're looking into planning meleches iser. You're planning things that are forbidden to do on Shabbos. This is a problem of mimtzoi chefzecha. So this is what the Mechaber means here. Keep going. Shema'ayin nechosav, you look into your property, you look into your possessions, lirois, to see matzarech lemocher. I can't do anything today. I can't do meleches iser today, but I could do meleches iser, or I could have meleches iser done tomorrow. So I'll look in today to what needs to be done tomorrow. Chas v'chalila, I'm not going to do any meleches iser today. I'm just going to plan the meleches iser today. That's also oi. Or another example says the Mechaber. Leilech lepesach hamedina. You want to go to the gate of the city. Apparently, back in the day, the Beis HaMerchatz, the bathhouse, was out of the city. Now, you're not allowed to go out of the city on Shabbos, but you have a spa appointment, right after Shabbos. So, Leilech lepesach hamedina. You want to go to the city limits. Kadeshi Yamar Lotzes Balayla Lamerchatz. So you should be right by the Beis HaMerchatz, so that right after Shabbos, you could go get a hot bath. Now, I'm not going to go take a hot bath on Shabbos. No, I'm not going to do that. But I want to be right after Shabbos. Motzi Ois is already getting late. So I don't want Motzi Shabbos to be such a late night. So I'll go now. What am I doing wrong? Walking? There's no Isser involved in walking. No meleches iser here. I'm not going to do Amir La'akum. I'm not going to tell the guy at the bathhouse, do me a favor, heat up the water for me. No, I'm not doing anything. I'm just walking. That's all I'm doing. No, you're not allowed to do that, because what are you doing? You're walking to the ends of the city to pursue your needs for after Shabbos. You're going to pursue weekday activity. So you're doing a Maisa, you're going over there to look into your weekday activities on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do that. V'chein, similarly, another example. Ein machshichem al hatchum liskar poyalim. You're not allowed to bring in the end of Shabbos day. That's what ein machshichem means. The shorish is choshech, dark. You're not allowed to spend the end of Shabbos day when it gets dark. You're not allowed to spend it by the edge of the tchum liskar poyalim in order to hire workers. Again, your house, your apartment rental, your rental apartment needs renovation. You have to hire some workers, some laborers. The laborers hang out outside the tchum. Now, of course, you're not going to walk out of the tchum on Shabbos, but you want to get the first dibs on the laborers after Shabbos. You know that after Shabbos there's a rush. Everybody's running out to go hire laborers for Sunday morning. You want to get the pick of the litter. You want to make sure you get the best laborers. So you say to yourself, right, mincha, I'll daven mincha in shul, I'll eat a quick shalashudis, and then I'll walk all the way to the edge of the tchum. What am I doing wrong? Walking is not an isser. I'm not going to go out of the tchum, but I'll walk to the edge of the tchum, and I'll be there when it gets dark, meaning I'll be there when Shabbos ends, and right when Shabbos ends, I'll pick the best painters, and I'll say, I'm hiring you for tomorrow morning. Now how to do that? Because again, what are you doing? You're walking to the edge of the tchum on Shabbos to pursue your weekday activities, to pursue your business, to take care of your rental property after Shabbos. You're not allowed to do that. That's mimtzoi chefzecha. Says the Ramah Haggah, v'hu adin da asr l'tayel limtzoi susoi sfina oy karain lotzei spy. You're also not allowed to go for a walk on Shabbos. For what? You know that you have to travel out of town on Motzei Shabbos. So you want to have a good horse. So you want to go for a walk around town and check out the horses to see which horse do I want to get for right after Shabbos to go travel out of town. Not allowed to do that. Are you allowed to take a horse and ride out of town on Shabbos? No, you're not allowed to ride a horse on Shabbos. So to go check out the horses on Shabbos, even though what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing any, there's no malacha here. But it doesn't matter. It's mimtzoi chefzecha. You want to go check out the horses for the purposes of doing something that's osir on Shabbos after Shabbos. Not allowed to do that. This is all mimtzoi chefzecha. Now take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Aleph, where the Mishnah Berurah makes a very, very critical point over here. Now, as a hakdama to this, there's something that we need to explain. Realize in everything that I've been saying that what's so unique about this Isser of Mimtzoi Chefzecha is we're finding something here that's Osir on Shabbos, even though there is absolutely no Meleches Isser involved. Walking is not a Meleches Isser. Looking at something is not a Meleches Isser. Thinking in your mind about painting is not a Meleches Isser. But this is Osir under the rubric of Mimtzoi Chefzecha. Now, at the same time, Chazal tell us, Gemara in, thinking Erevin right now, I think, that there's a major, I don't want to say major kula in this halacha, but there's something that's mutter also. And that is if it's strictly hirhur. If all you're doing is thinking about weekday activity, that is not called Mimtzoi Chefzecha. That's not Osir because of Mimtzoi Chefzecha. Now, having said that, tomorrow, no time for today anymore, but tomorrow I'll read to you in Aruch HaShulchan that even that is something that you shouldn't do. But if you're sitting on the living room couch after the Suda and you're thinking about your rental property and you're thinking, yeah, till now I was getting so and so much per month, the prices have gone up. It's a landlord's market now. I remember the last time I was in there, the colors were very dated. I remember the carpet was a little threadbare. You're not talking about it. You're just thinking. Hirhur, just thought, strictly speaking, Me'ikar Adin, is not Otzer because of Mimtzoi Chefzecha. There has to be some level of Asek, some level of Maisa, in order for it to be Osir. You have to be doing something in order for it to be Osir because of Mimtzoi Chefzecha. So on the one hand, Mimtzoi Chefzecha asers certain activities on Shabbos, even though they're not Meleches Isser. But on the other hand, we don't take it all the way to the other extreme, that if there's no activity involved at all, if it's just pure thought, it's still Asr. Pure thought, here Ba'alma, strictly speaking, is mutter, because there's no activity involved at all. So for it to be Mimtzoi Chefzecha, there has to be some activity. Now, against that backdrop, take a look at what the Mishnah Berurah says in Ois Katan Aleph. The words of the Mechaber were Shema'ayin Nechosav. You're going to look into your possessions, to go look into your properties. Says the Mishnah Berurah, brings it from the Magen Avram. V'dafka heicha de minkara milsa. Not only does there have to be activity involved, but it has to be recognizable that the activity that you're doing is linked somehow to non-Shabbos activity, to weekday pursuits. For example, keep going. Sha'oimid eitzel sadeyu atzricha charisha oiketzira v'kayotze bazeh. You're standing next to your field. You're a farmer, and you have a cornfield that's going to need plowing and planting and everything else. So you go on Shabbos, and you're standing next to your field, and you're looking over your field. So then it's minkara milsa. It's obvious that you walked to your cornfield, and you're standing by your cornfield, and you're engaged in some level of activity for the purposes of planning non-Shabbos activity, weekday activity that you're going to do after Shabbos. That's when it's awesome. The minkar adavar she'omed sham la'ayin b'tzracheh. It's obvious to anybody who would look, what are you doing over there? You're looking over your cornfield. That's what you're doing. Now, this is not a Maris Ayin thing here. That's not what we're working on here. The question over here is, what do we need to elevate the activity that you're doing, which is not Meleches Isser? What do we need in order to elevate it to an activity that's Asr because of Mimtzoi Chefzecha? It has to be that it's a minkara milsa. It has to be that it would be obvious to the onlooker what you're doing. Everybody knows Ruvain is a farmer. If Ruvain, and everybody knows it's the plowing season. So if you're standing next to your field that has not yet been plowed, and you're walking back and forth and you're looking over it, everybody understands what you're doing. You're doing Mimtzah Chetzecha. You're standing by your field and you're planning non-Shabbos activity. So then it's also because of Mimtzah Chetzecha. So too, the Mechaber's case, when you go to the edge of the city, to the gate of the city, and you're hanging around close to where the Beis HaMerchatz is, if everybody knows that that's where the Beis HaMerchatz is, right outside of the gates of the city, anybody who sees you over there is going to roll his eyes and say, he wants to get the best shower in the house. No one is going to look and say, oh, you just decided to take a spazier on Shabbos, and that's where you walked. No, it's a minkara milsa. It is recognizable that you're there to get the best shower. So that's Mimtzah Chetzecha. You're standing at the gate of the city, right by the Beis HaMerchatz, to pursue non-Shabbos weekday activity, to pursue getting the best shower and taking a shower after Shabbos. But if it's not recognizable that what you're doing has anything to do with weekday activity, that would be considered pure hirur, the mutter, which is mutter. Okay, we're going to pause over here. We'll continue with this Mirza Hashem tomorrow and expand on it tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah, the source of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rav Shem should send Yeshua for us, Panas and Shaduchim to all those in need. We should be Zaychet to see the BS Gal Tzedek. B'meher v'yameinu. Amen. Be well.